to California. From Mexico you come to the Sacramento Valley to toil.
But within the Chicano movement, we were being the ones that were the least impacted by the peace movement, because the media wouldn't cover us. They didn't know how to, and we had to find our own way of doing it, and we did.
Your brown-eyed children of the sun.
There were guys that I went to college with, you know, I went to a kind of a little party, and they were all kidding themselves. These guys in their fraternity house happened to be with the vice president. We both graduated at UCLA, and they were all talking about how they were able to get out of the draft, kidding each other. Oh, you paid $500, I only paid $300 to a lawyer. You broke your finger, or you did that, you paid a psychiatrist, you know, and this and that. They were kidding each other on who got out the smartest way. Then I would go to work, and kids from the Imperial and Coachella Valley were being told by their draft boards, oh, you don't get deferments, because they wanted to fill up their quotas with the farm workers, with the young Chicano kids rather than others. And you saw that kind of a thing, and so if I had gotten out of the draft, somebody else in my draft board that was over on San Gabriel Boulevard in Valley, probably a Chicano or a low-income person, was going to be called into my place. And so the challenge there was, how do you do something that is going to bring the issues of the war home, that was not going to add to the deaths, but was going to begin building for the peace. And so that's why I chose to refuse induction. We wanted 5,000 marching in the rain, and the dedication was strong. We knew we could do it. So then we went up here to Denver. There was a National Youth Conference, the second one, that was held at the Crusade for Justice, led by Corky Gonzalez. And we got a motion passed to have a national moratorium on August 29th in LA, with smaller moratoriums in cities, in the barrios, all throughout the Southwest. Here's right after, a few weeks later, in Fresno, there was one, but in Santa Barbara, San Diego, Houston, Albuquerque, Denver, you name it, Sacramento, San Diego, there were all over. This was a key unity thing of the Chicano movement and the farm workers in June in Coachella Valley, where they were having a successful struggle, the farm workers. And Corky Gonzalez, the leader of the Chicano movement, was together with Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez. This is a picture from the People's World. The next July, things were growing. 2 undocumented workers were shot, quote-unquote, by mistake by the LAPD. And the Moratorium Committee and others got together, held a huge rally protesting because the police issue was big, and this was one of the first big support and including undocumented workers in our struggle. This is Ed Roybal, our only congressman, leading a march of well over 1,000 that we had. And so all of this was part of the growing movement that the moratorium, the unity of all the different Chicano movement groups, was building towards a major demonstration that we had nationally on August 29. We had over 30,000 marching, maybe 10,000 stayed for the rally on August 29th, and the crowd was peaceful, jubilant, united, attentive, but the police used the pretense, and the federal and local and state used the pretense that some people way a block and a half away were taking some beer and running into the park, and people weren't letting them go in. At the same time we were talking in the park, thousands attentive, the police started coming into the neighborhood, into the park. People began to resist, and it grew into a major confrontation with the police. And it had to be done because we had people in front of the stage. That's where the people that didn't march, like my mother who was 55, and with my sister who had her 9-month-old second child, like my nephew, But there were all kinds of youth, seniors, that were going to get stampeded if the sheriffs were allowed to just run through the crowd. 2 miles away from the park, 2 hours later, they gave the pretense that they heard there was somebody with a gun in a bar. Ruben Salazar, who was our #1 journalist, that he was there. They thought they were being followed. So they went in there to go to the restroom, to have a drink, and maybe lose some plainclothes people they believed that were following them. Sheriffs came up to the door, fired. It really was kind of a bazooka. They fired a canister that's supposed to go through wood or barricades, and they fired it through an open window, and it took off much of Ruben Salazar's head. The one person that could tell the story of how we were attacked. In fact, he was talking to some of our leaders, like Bert Corona, Dr. Rudy Acuna, Chole Alatorre, and others. When the people were trying to keep the sheriffs from pushing people, he said, they can't blame this on us now. And that would have been the story he would have told, but he was killed. The message that we're giving is that our movement was not just one day, not just the killing of one major reporter. That was very important, but it was a whole movement of our people alongside of the rest of the country against an unjust war that created what they call the Vietnam Syndrome. The people did not want to fight land wars like they had, and it took them a generation to try to do that again, and we played our part in that, but it also spurred our civil rights movement, our justice movement. And it's very important. We've chosen to do this. It's the 40th anniversary, so that is one occasion. But the main thing is to affirm the Mexican-American, Chicano-Latino struggle as part of the democratic struggle of this country. And it's under attack by the right wing that wants to attack us, to try to whip up a vote to get themselves back in power. But we're not doing that. We're affirming our history and joining in coalition with others to continue the democratic process in this country. So then if the peace people say, oh, we're not going to vote for the Democrats.
I'm telling you,
We
that's
can take
what's headed.
it, yeah, but they're not up for deportation. So screw the people that are up for deportation. If we don't have peace, let them deport all they want. Because that's what, you have to look at the peace and justice side of this. And what gets me mad is that people that don't have to face those choices personally then impose their values on others that are having to make these judgments. It's like, in order for us to move forward, we have to, #1, defeat these racist Republicans that are doing that and set ourselves in a position where we can begin moving on peace, on jobs, on all these other questions.